Well, it's been a relentless fire season in California, to say the least. More than 45 miles of an interstate there now closed through the weekend as firefighters battle another one. It's burning out of control.
Walls of flames jumping the roadway, threatening drivers. It is, as Adrian said, out of control. ABC's Will Carr right there in Redding, California with more. Will, good morning to you.
Look at that sign just caught on fire. We cannot stay right here.
Some forced to flee on foot.
We gotta walk.
The skeletons of their vehicles left scattered on the side of the road. This team of local firefighters, some of the first on the scene, amazingly stumbling across the Delta fire while on their way home from 19 consecutive days of battling two other California blazes.
We actually came across the Delta fire right as it was starting, so we pulled off the side of the road and loaded up and tried to fight the fire.
Their quick thinking reportedly saving about a dozen homes. But the fire quickly outpacing those first responders. By Friday morning, smoke from the inferno descending on nearby Redding, California, closing schools and businesses.
Never seen anything like it in Redding in 40 years.
So far this year, wildfires have destroyed 1.2 million acres in California. The cost of that destruction now nearing $900 million.
And with the rest of September and October left, this will end up being the worst wildfire season ever in California history. Whit.
All right, Will Carr. I mean, the image is just extraordinary.
Hey, folks, and welcome to another video from A Plain Truth. Fire, fire, everywhere there's fire. Set the world on fire is the St. Ignatius Jesuit theme, and they are doing this. Please look, this is Humboldt County. Just yesterday, look at the left side of the road. Look at the fire spots. You can see spots of fire, but look at that's almost like sand, that dirt. I've walked around in that stuff. It's volcanic ash. There's no fuel for this fires, folks, yet there are fires. How can that be where there's no fuel? And this is in the Delta fire up above Redding where they just had the car fire, and this is the Highway 5. This is what it's like driving through. All of a sudden, there's massive smoke right at ground level that has all of a sudden engulfed the entire roadway. Now, why do you think that is happening, folks? Can you imagine driving through that with fire on both sides and having to go through this out of nowhere? No one called for it. No storms came about. There was no high winds, no pressure, humidity, or anything like that. Yet look at this smoke, and they drive through. That's to hide the lasers being shown so they could torch the trucks and torch these areas. But look at that firestorm on the right out of nowhere. That's not being fueled by trees, folks. That is done by lasers. Now watch how quickly it all clears. It is just one segmented area by design, by target, weaponized fires from the air. So they call this the boot fire, like they're going to boot everybody out, like they're going to do. And I just noticed this picture. Take a close look. Is that a second sun? Is that a sun simulator? There's one light, and there's two lights, two circles right next to each other. Kind of interesting. All right, so the Boots Fire. This is a National Forest System lands north of California 108 from Sonora Bridge to 395 north. And what does it just happen to perfectly coordinate with? The America 25 mega region development of the Trans Railway System here. And so the area we're focusing on and looking at right here is right in this corridor between San Francisco and Portland, California. Right in here is the area we're talking about. Let me bring it down a little bit so you can see. And this is the mega region they're wanting to develop. So they're promoting it like crazy with different promotions that they're doing for the Bike Coalition. Also, let me show you that one here. The Bike Coalition is being developed to fund the Great Redwood Highway Trail, SB 29. Look at how beautiful it is, right in between the redwoods. No, folks, this isn't right in between the redwoods. And this is part of the Delphi technique that Rosa Corey and Deborah Tavares talk about, using the Delphi to build up the Bike Coalition and whatnot. But, folks, it's going right through the big Redwood Basin State Park. All right, this is where they're planning on going through, is all the great ancient redwood trees and taking them out. And then here's the website, America2050.org, with their plans for the Transamerica, a quote passenger network, but it's anything but MOT. It's a commercial resources industrial railway they're putting in. So those of you that have been paying attention, the Great Railroad Trail Act passed state Senate unanimously. Now we've got to wrestle with the details, they say, huh? And this is Senator Mark McGuire, who's going to be burning down this summer. He's been correct. How did this man know? But from San Francisco, the incredible beauty, the Great Railroad Trail will be a significant economic driver for the rural North Coast communities it would wind through. It generates $92 billion a year, 700,000 jobs will be created, $30 billion in wages, and bring over $6 billion in tax revenues. We've got to do this. Now note that it's going to be a 300-mile long right of way, roughly at the halfway point. Here it is along the coast. This is the coastal range. This is along 101. This is Willits right above Santa Rosa, about an hour and a half, 2 hours, and then it goes all the way up to the Oregon coast at the border where Eureka is where they're planning to drive it up through. So that's why they have the trains going through the fire waters to keep the railroad lines clean and away from where they're planning to build. North Coast Trail Bill reimagines smart rail operations extending into Mendocino County. All right, so Mendocino County is part of the 70-mile system that was originally planned, but they only got 40, and they've got 30 more miles to go. And the 30 more miles SMART needs is $34 million to build the 3-mile extension. So if they're going to build 300 miles, folks, 300, we add 2 zeros to 34 million, 0, 0. And what are we going to get? We're going to get $3.4 billion is going to be the cost of this. So the abandoned tracks north of Willits would be transferred under McGuire's bill to the state for the study of the proposed Great Redwood. It already has been done. Like anything else, I consider it, as far as said Doug Bosco, a sanitary attorney and former North Coast congressman, who is also an investor in Sonoma Media Investment Groups, who owns the Press Democrat newspaper, who's partners with Darius Anderson, the other owner of Sonoma Media Investment Groups, and the Press Democrat, who's a lobbyist for, drumroll please, Pacific Gas and Electric, who's being blamed for the fires, who have then gone to the state Congress and got the taxpayers to pay for the fires. Hey, isn't that great? Problem, reaction, solution. And then it goes on, as amended agreement, the Smart Northwestern Railroad Pacific would be another option. Either path could open up state and federal grant money for freight line improvements. Freight line improvements, folks. Not a bike trail, not for your hiking and biking and enjoyment. A freight line. Freight is very, very important for the communities of Marin and Sonoma and beyond. Freight moves for goods and gets huge trucks off highways and local roads. Notice that the trucks were burned on the roads, part of their plan. And if we are given that responsibility by state legislatures, then we'll go study that, perhaps do a public-private partnership or PPO where the public pays and the private profits. That's called a PPO. Public pays, private corporations profit. That's the game they're playing here, folks. So here's further proof of evidence, the railroad lines going through the burning areas. This is the Shasta fire. This is going through, I'm not sure if that's the Eel River or not, but you can see the train coming through is a fire train that is going to be spraying on both sides. But if you'll notice, there's one full nozzle, what looks like a full water spray on the upside of the hill to protect the railroad lines from the fires. And on the downside, you'll see a different type of spray that might be some chemical agent they're spraying where it doesn't have, it may be diminishes the accelerants, the desiccants, the aluminum oxide or whatever, but you can clearly see there's different types of sprays going on here as well. But again, we're seeing the same MO being burning out in separate regions, fires starting out of nowhere, completely surprising firefighters, and you can see the flames, these huge, massive walls it just can't happen the way it has happened in the past. That's why they're calling it the new normal, so they can try and explain away when they attack these different regions for their Agenda 21, Agenda 2030, Agenda 2050 mega regions. You can see what they're doing. They're using these burned out trucks that would take just massive, massive amounts. Look at the logs didn't even burn, but the engines did, folks. I mean, the logs didn't burn, but the engines did. Steel melted, but wouldn't dent. What does that tell you? Look at how hot this is. The heat intensity needs to be over 2,500 to 3,000 degrees to melt these semi-trucks down to their chassis, below their wheels, as you'll see as the pictures here. This is not anything that can only be explained by man-made technology. Look at that, folks. And so what they're trying to do is tell us that we need to use the railroad lines. We need to create the biodiversity zones because there's too much of bad fires everywhere. And so we're going to have to move into these mega regions, mega cities, stack and pack them. You know, the whole plans that they have for us, and they're creating the problem reaction solution. So here's the fires on the side of the roads. Well, how did these fires all of a sudden jump onto the trucks? And look, here's another one with the logs not burnt, but burn the complete chassis, burn the engine apart, burn the cab and everything else. How does this happen? Well, as you saw in the video up above, they create this now, which I'm thinking is because we've disclosed and have proof of the lasers being shown from the sky, being shot from the sky, that geoengineeringwatch.org claims there's no proof of any lasers from the sky, when we have actual proof, we have actual footage, we have real film of it actually happening. So it is a fact that they are using lasers from the sky. But now, as I showed in the previous video there, that they could be bringing it down and using a cloud cover, smoke cover, whatever, to do their dirty work, to do the laser torching, and then they lift the clouds and lift the fog. That could be what's going on. So take a look at the rest of these pictures from the Butte fire and from the Delta fire just recently, the past few days. California is burning up. The Agenda 21, as Deborah Tavares has so put way back in 2014, it's happening in real time here in Northern California and other places along the Pacific Northwest. Plain truth out, peace. Enjoy the music. Speak out. Let your voice be heard. This is not a time to be silent.
Surely burn it down. One in a million. Who'll set the world on fire? Who'll set the world on fire? Who'll set the world on fire? It was me who set the world on fire. Who'll set the world on fire? Who'll set the world on fire? Who'll set the world on fire? It was me who set the world on fire. I'm a working man from an old steel town. Never saw much school, that never got me down. Never learned to talk, bouncing to the office girls. I'm a blast furnace boy, I want steel, not pearls. And I may not know the answers to all the questions in this world, but I know I'd die for you, my girl. You started a fire, fire, fire. Baby, you found the flames. The heat's getting higher, higher, higher. You're pumping red molten steel through my veins. There's a brave old man, and he used to say, you gotta do what's right till your dying day. You don't have to prove anything or walking well. You gotta push it hard, pay the price and be yourself. So what you see is what you get, girl.